Imagine exploring an abandoned hospital for a scary game only to find it quickly turning into a fight for your life. What started off as a simple game now becomes a haunting experience where dangerous ghost stalks and kills you on sight. This is the premise of Last Light. Developed by Team Cornfield and published by Hike Games, Last Light is a top-down 2.5D survival horror game that follows Lumi, who one day receives a message in a group chat instructing her to participate in a scare game set in an abandoned hospital. However, as soon as she arrives, her friends abandon her, and out of fear, Lumi runs away, not knowing that she is trapped unless she completes the game. Before we begin, please take a moment to look at the start screen. When you press start, you are presented with 3 difficulties: light, dim, and dark. Remember this, as we will get back to this later. For now, we choose light. The game begins with Lumi arriving at the abandoned hospital. The door behind her mysteriously locks, trapping her inside. She calls out to her friend but no one answers. She is truly all alone in this desolate place. Suddenly, Lumi receives a message from the group chat. They told her that they're waiting for her somewhere inside this building. But since it's a scare game, they've added a challenge. She needs to find all 7 name tags. To make sure she doesn't quit all too soon, they told her that the first name tag belongs to hers and it's located in the basement. Lumi couldn't believe what she heard. They want her to find their name tag in this creepy building? Just the thought of it makes her shiver. But they don't care. It is a scare game after all. Going down to the basement, Lumi sees dried blood on the floor. She makes her way to the end of the hallway where she enters a single room. There, lying on the floor, is her name tag. As soon as she picks it up, she hears a sinister giggle. But that doesn't make sense. The place is abandoned. There's no way anyone is here. As it turns out, the place wasn't as abandoned as she thought. Ghost occupies the place. Now, I think I should explain what kind of ghosts Lumi will encounter in this whole building. There are 3 types of ghosts. The first one is the static ghost. This ghost holds the name tag, but in order to get them, Lumi must complete the task given by them. Once she finishes them, the ghost will drop the name tag. The second type is the wandering ghost. These ghosts are harmless, but if Lumi gets too close, she'll get hurt. Finally, the hostile ghosts. These ghosts relentlessly hunt her, trying to harm her. The only way to avoid them is by hiding in a locker until they leave. Anyway, Lumi warns the group that they're not alone in this building, but they don't believe her and told her to continue looking for their name tag. The group then gave her another hint. On the first floor, they've hidden 2 name tags and they want her to find them. Since she didn't have any other choice, she reluctantly agrees and continues the game. While exploring, Lumi encounters a ghost boy with a creepy smile. At first, she's terrified of him, but when she realizes he can't move or do anything that will harm her, Lumi gathered her courage and decided to talk to him. The ghost tells her that she must open all the doors in the restroom or something will happen to her. Now, Lumi doesn't want to find out what that is, so she decided to follow the ghost's instruction and open every restroom doors. It took her a while, but she managed to open all the doors. When she returned to the ghost boy, he dropped an ID card. As soon as Lumi picks it up, we see a flashback of someone named Amelia who appears to be holding a bucket of water. She throws the water through one of the stalls, drenching the person behind it. The person, who seems to be Lumi, just stared at the ground, shocked and unable to move an inch. It seems like there's more to Lumi than meets the eye. This flashback shows her being bullied, but why? Well, to get that answer, Lumi needs to collect more ID cards. Not too far from the second elevator, there is another ghost wearing a duck mask. When Lumi approached him, he asked her to bring him a drink since he's thirsty, but not just any drink. He specifically requested a savory red beverage. Lumi knows exactly where to find it because she saw a vending machine on her way here. Still, she couldn't help but feel curious about the drink, since it looks tasty. I mean, the flavor must be strawberry, right? Well, when she obtained the drink, she decided to taste it and then... Lumi vomited after drinking the beverage. There was a bit of iron taste to it. It wasn't strawberry flavored. It was blood. Lumi was horrified when she realized what she had drunk, but still it was a request, so she took another can and handed it to the ghost. The ghost happily drinks it and disappears, leaving behind an ID card. Lumi picks it up and was shown another flashback. This time it was from a boy named Ralph who is holding a cutter. The scene changed to reveal that Ralph used the cutter to damage Lumi's bag. We then see Lumi standing still in front of her damaged bag, tears in her eyes. After picking up the 2 ID cards, Lumi took pictures of them and sent them to the group as proof. Someone named Hunter replied, instructing her to go to the second floor to find the other ID cards. When she arrived on the second floor, Lumi received a message from the group chat. They were surprised that she decided to continue searching for the ID cards since they bet that she would have already quit because of her scaredy cat nature. And they weren't wrong. Lumi is scared. She begged them to let her go home, but they wouldn't allow it. They even went so far as to threaten her, which worked so well because it silenced her. Like it or not, Lumi had no choice but to continue the game. The second floor is where things starts to become dangerous, mainly because Wraiths, the ghost Lumi encountered in the basement, and crying ghosts are now roaming the area, making it dangerous for her to traverse the floor. However, despite the difficulties, she managed to make it through and met the first ghost of this floor, a ghost named Ellie. Ellie asked Lumi to help her find her missing hairband. She lost it while playing hide and seek with her friend. The only thing she remembers is seeing something red while hiding and hearing a strange noise. Lumi agrees, but deep down she had no idea where to look, so she started exploring the floor, opening rooms and locked doors. At one point, she found a room where candle was scattered across the floor and a table stood in the middle of it. A ritual room perhaps. Some of the candles are out, so Lumi lit them back and instantly the place burst into flames. Seconds later, she saw a squirrel doll placed on the table. Since she didn't know what to do with it yet, she left it there and continued exploring. While searching for Ellie's missing hairband, Lumi found a ghost child with a missing eye named Charlie. He asked her if she could look for his squirrel doll, something she had already stumbled upon earlier. She immediately returned to the ritual room to pick up the bloody squirrel doll and brought it back to the ghost boy. He then dropped an ID card and Lumi was once again shown a flashback. This time it showed Lumi trying to open her locker only to find it stuffed with disgusting trash. The person responsible for this was none other than her classmate Morgan. When the flashback ended, Lumi was confused. She wondered what did she ever did to him that made him hate her so much. As she ponders the answer, a voice echoes in the darkness. It asks her why she was always crying whenever it saw her, before revealing itself to be a talking one-eyed cat. Lumi was surprised to hear it talk and wondered if the cat was a ghost, but it just smiled sinisterly and gave her a vague answer. Lumi resumes her search and eventually finds a locker. Now, lockers are typically used as hiding place from the Wraith, but this one in particular looks oddly different. When Lumi enters it, she is shocked to discover that the locker is covered in blood. To make matters even more surprising, this is where she finds Ellie's missing hairband. Something must have happened here, but since Lumi doesn't want to stick around to find out, she immediately rushed back to Ellie and hands her the missing hairband. Ellie thanked her and dropped an ID card. When Lumi picks it up, she is treated to a flashback. This time, a kid named May called her out, but since Lumi didn't answer, she resorted to throwing crumpled up paper at her. The others soon joined in and throws it at her as well. Lumi couldn't do anything except cower in fear. When the flashback ends, Lumi was left feeling confused. Why is everyone being mean to her? What did she ever do to them? There's a lot of things that she didn't understand, but maybe collecting more of the ID card could provide her answer. Suddenly, Lumi received a message from the group chat. This time, someone named Ralph asked if she had completed everything they told her to do. Lumi replied that she had and asked what she needed to do next. Ralph then instructed her to go to the third floor, but Lumi hesitated. She couldn't take it anymore. That's when Ralph threatened her, telling her he'd beat her up if she didn't follow his order. To Lumi, this was far scarier than any ghost, and just the thought of what would happen to her made her tremble with fear. She immediately searched for the next elevator and headed to the third floor. On the third floor, things became more dangerous as more ghosts roamed the area, making traversal much harder. But that didn't stop Lumi from doing what she's told. She continued exploring until she encountered a ghost named Leah who asked Lumi to help her find the tools needed for surgery. It took her quite a while to track down the tools since the ghost required 2 different types. But eventually she found them all and handed them over to Leah. The ghost thanked her and disappeared, leaving behind an ID card. When Lumi picks up the ID card, she experiences another flashback. This time, we see her entering the classroom and accidentally bumping into a girl named Claudia. She apologizes, but Claudia ignores her and leaves the class. We then hear Lumi's surprised reaction as she discovers her desk has been vandalized with insulting message. The scene changes, showing Lumi on the verge of tears. When the flashback ends, Lumi wonders if this scare game is meant to torment her, as every time she picks up an ID card, she relieves the painful memory of being bullied. Despite this, Lumi decides to tough it out, knowing that she is close to finishing the game. There's just one more ID card to find. After that, she's done. On the bottom left side of this floor, Lumi found the last ghost, who for some reason looked like a demon. Her name was Ava, and she requested Lumi to find her body and bring it back to her. However, Lumi was hesitant because Ava looked terrifying. Her eyes are empty with blood dripping out, but as much as Lumi wanted to reject the request, she couldn't. The ghost had the last ID card and she needed that to finish the game. Like it or not, Lumi had to help her. But it wasn't all too bad since she felt sorry for Ava, who appeared to be suffering. It took her quite some time to find what Ava wanted, but eventually Lumi managed to find her body. Tucked away behind a wall was a passage that led to a hidden room. In this room, Lumi found various notes scattered across the floor. All of the notes left by a doctor who conducted an experiment on the kids. Looks like Lumi was right to feel sorry for her. At the end of the passage was a rotting body that resembled Ava closely. Lumi was horrified to see it. She wanted to run away but she couldn't, since she needed to fulfill Ava's request. Lumi dug through the rotting body and scooped out the clump of flesh. She then returned to Ava and gave it to her. Ava happily accepted it and disappeared, leaving behind the last ID card. When Lumi picked it up, she saw a flashback. This time, we see a group of kids shoving Lumi inside a locker. She begged them to stop, but they didn't listen. One of them, named Amelia, suggests they put a tape on the locker and block it with a chair to keep Lumi from escaping. Morgan, the leader of the group, agreed and did just that. The scene changed and we see the locker taped shut with a chair propped against the door to prevent Lumi from opening it. We then hear Lumi banging on the door, begging to be released, unaware that no one was in the class. When the flashback ended, the cat appeared and excitedly asked Lumi if she had finally remembered everything. Lumi replied that she did remember, though she didn't want to. This made the cat disappointed and upset, since this is not what he wanted. Nothing had changed at all. Lumi was confused by that statement, but before she could ask him anything about it, the cat disappeared. Shortly after, her phone received a notification from the group chat telling her she needed to bring the ID card to the third floor morgue room. Finally, she could end this game. But with everything going on, Lumi failed to realize one thing. Why were they waiting in the morgue room?
みんながいた部屋はここ。みんなついて何みんなこれを見てもまだ思い出せないかい？どうして？君は最初からこいつらと肝試しなんか来ていない。何バカなこと言ってるの？私はみんなから連絡が来て。
As soon as she enters the room, a rotting smell fills the air. Lumi shines her flashlight inside and that's when she made the horrifying discovery of 5 dead bodies. But these weren't just any random people, these are the people that had bullied her, the ones who forced her to participate in this scare game in the first place. They were talking to her the whole time, but apparently they're already dead? She wondered what happened to them. Who killed them? That's when the cat appeared and told her that there had never been any scare game. Lumi didn't believe him. She was certain she had called them, and to prove it, she pulls out her phone. But as soon as she looked at the screen, she went completely silent. On the screen was the message she had sent in the group chat, with no reply. The screen then shifted to the scene at the beginning of the game when she arrived in the woods. Earlier, we saw her with a group of bullies, but it was revealed that Lumi was all alone, proving that no one had been with her the entire time. The cat then looked at her and asked again, "Don't you remember?" That question alone triggered her memory and she finally remembered what had happened. She killed them all. She remembered how she lured them one by one and then hit them in the head with a sharp object. cat was relieved because Lumi remembers what she did. He was happy for her, but not Lumi. Lumi was in disbelief. She couldn't believe that she had killed them all. Suddenly, the wraith that had been chasing her the entire time appeared. Lumi tried to run away from it, but it was no use. The wraith was faster, and in no time it managed to capture her. Lumi begged for help, but no one came to help her. In the end, she was swallowed by the darkness, trapping inside the hospital forever. This should have been the end, except it wasn't. You see, Lumi woke up after the wraith got her. She was back at the entrance and everything resets to the beginning. She was going through it all over again. So, remember that difficulty select screen when we start the game? If you pay close attention to it, you'll notice that the other two difficulties are locked. No game should ever lock the difficulty select. I can understand locking the hard mode, but locking the normal mode as well? Yeah, something is definitely up. So why did they do this? Well, as it turns out, the game has 3 endings, and to see them all, you had to complete all 3 difficulties. That means doing the same thing all over again. So, once again, Lumi wakes up inside the hospital, but this time she has a feeling that she's already completed everything before. She then receives a message from the group chat instructing her on what to do, but this time Lumi replied saying that she knows her ID is in the basement, which annoys the bullies because it ruins the fun for them. Now, the rest of this is pretty similar to the first time, so instead of going over that, let's talk about the time loop. Now, you might think this is the first time the game shows us the time loop, but if you pay attention, it was actually hinted as early as the start of the first difficulty. Let me explain. If you die in this game, Lumi wakes up with a headache and wonders what she's up to before telling herself that she can't afford to waste time and resumes what she was doing. If you're holding something at that time, like a key item for a quest, that item doesn't disappear. Now, some might see this as an anti-frustration mechanic implemented by the developer, but I see it as a hint showing us that she's already in a time loop and has been experiencing this over and over again. Not to mention, the cat had already dropped a major hint alluding to the fact that this whole situation is a time loop. Like asking Lumi why she's crying every time he sees her, saying her name without her introducing herself even though it's the first time meeting the cat, and tells her that it's useless to continue the game. It makes sense since he already knows what happened. Anyway, Lumi collects all of the ID cards again, but this time she remembers bits and pieces from the previous loop, which makes the cat excited since this means they will get a different outcome. When she collects the final ID card, that's where Lumi recalls everything from the previous loop, and she demands the cat to tell her why he kept quiet about it. The cat then told her that it was meaningless to explain everything because in every loop that Lumi went through, she never remembered what happened previously. So instead of forcing it, he waited for her to naturally remember on her own. The cat then tells her that she will soon receive a message from the group chat instructing her to go to the final room. When Lumi arrived in the morgue, she stands there quietly. She already knew what happened in the first loop, so she expected this. But still, she can't shake off the feeling that something isn't right. The cat then looks at her and asks why she's sad since this is the outcome that she wanted. Lumi tells him that while she wanted them to experience what she went through, she never intended to kill them. This surprises the cat. He wasn't expecting that kind of answer. Suddenly, the wraith appears and chases after Lumi. It seems like things are gonna end up like the first loop again. Except it didn't. The cat blocks the wraith and tells Lumi to run. Lumi runs as fast as she can and exits the hospital. We then see her lighting a candle and placing the ID card down while saying sorry. She never meant for this to happen to them. She just wanted them to experience what she went through. Lumi then cried as hard as she can, begging for forgiveness from everyone until she eventually loses consciousness. Just as we thought things are over, the time resets and we return to the beginning of the game. When Lumi woke up, she realized that she's back at the hospital, but this time she remembers everything. This is a good thing because at this point, the messages she received are no longer readable. They're filled with jumbled up text, but that's fine because she remembers everything. She knows where to go and what to do from here on out. The third loop is pretty interesting because Lumi remembers everything, so you get to see a different reaction from her when she experienced the flashbacks. As a result, she starts to ignore the message from the group chat, mostly because she already knew what they contain. But to me, it looks like she avoided them because she feels guilty about what happened to the others. After this, the game plays out similarly to the previous loop, collecting the ID card, avoiding the ghosts, and surviving. When she collects the final ID card, Lumi receives an incoherent message from the group chat, but she didn't need to see it to know what it says. She already knows it's telling her to go to the morgue. When she arrives at the morgue, Lumi hesitates to answer because she can't bear to see dead bodies again. However, the cat reassures her that this time, things will be different. Slowly, Lumi enters the room and finds that it's empty. No dead bodies. No nothing. This makes her unbelievably happy because it meant that she didn't kill anyone. Finally! It feels like a huge burden had been lifted from her shoulder. The cat then tells her that she is different from the last time he met her. He observed her overcome all the challenges and do something different from the previous loop. This means that Lumi can finally leave this place. Lumi runs out the hospital and into the woods. She looked back at the hospital one last time before experiencing another blackout. When she wakes up, she wondered what happened to the scare game. We then get to see her hands, and this is where things looks different. The scene changed, showing Lumi, now much older with long hair, sitting on the hospital bed. She panics at first but then realized that everything she experienced was just a dream. Just as she's about to accept that, her eyes make contact with the door. Fear strikes her as she sees the ghost that haunts her during the time loop now appearing in real life. The ending of Last Light didn't explain much about what exactly happened to Lumi. I mean, unless you pay attention, you probably won't understand what happened to her exactly. So, why did Lumi wakes up in the hospital in the true ending? Well, Lumi is a victim of bullying. We saw it happen through the flashback when we picked up the ID cards. It was never mentioned why she was bullied, but I can guess that they bullied her because she was an easy target. The more ID cards we obtained, the more severe the bullying got, and it reached to a point where Lumi couldn't handle it anymore. The breaking point for all of this was when Lumi was stuffed inside the locker. She had enough. And you might think this is where she killed them, right? Because the first ending hinted that Lumi killed everyone out of revenge. But that's not what happened here. Lumi never killed them, so then why did she wake up in the hospital? Well, here is where things get dark. You see, after reaching her breaking point, Lumi decided to end her life. She couldn't bear being tormented every day, so one day, under the bright moonlight, Lumi sat on the edge of a railing, accompanied by a black cat, and jumped off to end her life. That obviously didn't work out, and instead she went into a coma. The cat, who is probably a demon, took pity on her and decided to grant her wish of wanting to end her bullies. So he put her into a dream where she could do whatever she wanted with the bullies. Lumi never realized that she was in a coma, and in this dream world, things took a different turn. Lumi was still being bullied by them, but here she decided that enough was enough and fought back. She killed them. Now, I don't know if the cat had a different plan for her, or maybe he was just bored, but at some point the cat erased her memory of quote-unquote killing the bullies, and she reverted back to being the timid and scared girl. He then made up this whole scare game with the intention of releasing Lumi if she was finally satisfied with her revenge. However, that is easier said than done, and it took a few loops for Lumi to finally realize that she never meant to kill them and regretted her action. When the cat saw this, he released her and Lumi woke up from her coma. All well ends well, but there's a saying that goes like this: never make a deal with the devil. Lumi regained her consciousness, but the horror that she experienced in that dream world followed her to the real world, haunting her forever. Thank you so much for watching. This game took me 7 hours to finish. 7 hours of doing the same thing 3 times. And not only that, it is also one of the hardest to play. Not because of the gameplay, but mainly because of how the game focuses on the theme of bullying. I never liked a game that centers around bullying because you know that in the end, the person had no other choice but to end their life. And that's exactly what happened here. Knowing that Lumi went through all of that and her answer to all of this was to end her life, it made me mad. Anyway, we're getting off topic. If you enjoy my content, don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more content like this, like the video if you enjoyed it, and check out my previous video. That's all. See ya.